All right, welcome back. This is the second open office of the week, which is really strange. Loving doing this though. We've been diving deep into very technical code, data type stuff. I thought it'd be really cool to take a look at the other side of business, which is getting your name out there. So there's a person I found on Twitter that I've been learning a ridiculous amount from over the past, I think it's been a year, named Charley. I'm going to bring him on here. Yeah, hey Charley, if you want to quick give a little hello and maybe a little bit about all the Facebook advertising stuff, what your core focus is.
Sure, absolutely. So, hi, my name is Charley. Really put, I'm one of the top 100 Facebook advertisers in the United States, according to Facebook. I personally managed well over a quarter of $1 billion in spend, and my clients and students have done well over $1 billion in revenue. I've been in the game nearly a decade. I've had daily budgets in the seven figures, and I've been really committing the last few years to teaching people how to be successful, because I've solved a lot of the other puzzles. But for me, the one thing I found was none of the other 100 are teaching. So I felt like that is my why at this point, is the success of others. Because nobody was there when I got started, because literally it didn't exist. We were building it like mistake by mistake, $1 million after $1 million. And I don't know, it makes me feel good to help other people see more success and less stress in their business. And that's why I'm here.
More success and less stress. I love that. And yeah, I can tell you just from the content that I've been watching over the last year of yours, I have felt exactly what you said there, because I used to spend a lot of time thinking about these campaigns that I'm setting up. My wife and I, we have a professional ballet company called Deos Ballet. And it can be hard to get the word out. And so I'm spending all this time trying to figure out, how do I make these campaigns? How do I figure out what's the right targeting to do, and get into all the nitty gritty details of the feature set. And I just didn't get the kind of performance I thought I might. And once I started simplifying my campaigns based on your content, performance went up and my life got a lot easier. So first off, thank you for that.
Hey, fantastic, man. You just made my day. I'm going to go put my head on the pillow tonight and in a little bit better place than I would have before you said that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great. So what, if you were to kind of take the 2-sentence summary of what does somebody do in their Facebook ad account that's going to be the highest impact thing?
Yeah. I would say there are 3 things to keep in mind. I know you said 2, but I'm going to give 2 and an extra credit. Number 1, okay. Remember there are real people on the other side of it. So make sure that you're talking to a real person. And number 2, remember what Facebook's business objective is and lean into it. It's attention for money. So the honorable mention here is make sure that what you're putting out there is something people want to see, so that you give Facebook the opportunity of acquiring more attention. And if you do that, you'll make more money.
Love that. I love that. And let me tell you, whenever I'm watching some of the videos that you put out on YouTube, you're on YouTube, YouTube. I found you on Twitter, which is where I first found you. And then I also follow you on LinkedIn. Are you other places as well?
Yeah, my Instagram has been lighting up for a while. I used to be on Clubhouse for a long time. I'm on TikTok. I have a Pinterest. I'm a social media guy. I'll be honest. The reason I'm so good at paid media, I think, is because I got started in organic and organic growth hacking. And honestly, it was because I was a touring musician and a radio personality, and paid media online didn't exist. So I figured out how to make money just talking to people and taking the merch table for after the punk show to like the rest of the world. And then paid ads is just throwing fuel on that fire. So anywhere you are, I'm at. And if I'm not there, you let me know. And one way or another, I'm going to start just bombarding the hell out of it until it makes other people money.
I had no idea that you were on radio for a bit. That's so interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I for 10 years, actually, I was a radio personality. It peaked with, I was a daily afternoon and evening drive personality on Sirius XM for a few years. I had an FM show. I started answering phones at an AM station on a Tuesday after Memorial Day. And by Monday of the next week, I was on air talent. And I spent a decade in the industry, basically as a touring musician and a radio guy. And then put myself through grad school, touring as a musician, and then, doing promotions for people. And then moved out to LA and got into the ad game professionally. And while hilarity ensued, a couple $100 million in spend later and a couple billion in revenue. And here we are.
Yeah. What was that moment of change, or was it sort of gradual falling into
no, it was,
the Facebook?
I'll tell you this. Slight scandal. By slight, I'm underselling it. Hulk Hogan had a sex tape. And that sex tape was with the owners of my radio station's wife. And then when the Gawker lawsuit took in, Hulk Hogan and Howard Stern were the financial backers of the radio station where I was on air talent. And basically, Hulk Hogan and Howard Stern were on one side with giant pocketbooks. And then the guy that ran the station was the other guy on the end of the sex tape. And very abruptly, I was no longer on air. And I was like, screw it. I got in a car. I drove 42 hours straight to LA and haven't really looked back. I mean, honestly, that was both the most trying time and the greatest push forward I've ever had in my life. And overcoming those types of adversities, I think, is what really defines us as people. And I was lucky. What can I say? I landed in LA when ads were extremely new. And I was just the person that was willing to say yes and then figure it out. I was ridiculously uncomfortable, but I had an MBA and I was halfway decent at math. And what can I say? I can talk enough that other people would just be like, fine, do it. Shut up. Go away. You spend it. And in a couple of years, I was, spending a couple $1 million a day.
Wow. Yeah. Trial by fire, it sounds like.
Yeah, basically trial by combat, and I was one of like
trial
8 people that made it out. Where there's thousands of dead all around. It's basically like I was like a Sparta, like a soldier at some point. Like I had no idea, but I made it out the other end.
Yeah. So, what is it about Facebook advertising that makes you passionate?
Oh, I love that question. I would say it's twofold. Number one, it's a really great puzzle. And it's one that nobody else had solved better than me when I got there. And for what it's worth, I always like to either be the best. I like to be the best guy in the room, or I don't want to play. Like, I'm just one of those people, right? Like, I've done certain things, like I'm obnoxiously good at bowling without trying, so I joined a bowling league, right? Like, or like there's other stuff that I'm just terrible at, and I will do anything in the world to not do it. And I try to be uncomfortable if there's upside. Like, I love that. But Facebook ads just presented this puzzle that I fully understood, like innately right away. I understood what the coders were trying to do. It just made sense to me. And to like, you ever see The Matrix, where it's just like lines of code coming down and it's like, I don't even see the code anymore. It's just blonde, brunette, redhead. For me, Facebook was like that back in 2014, which is just a blessing, to be honest. And then the other thing is, I have personally been able to help people change their lives with it. I've had students that have gone from part-time, food service to running 6, 7, 8-figure businesses. I mean, a ton of people have been able to do that. And I personally, 8, 9 years ago, was living in a basement, making $10 an hour. I've been fired from 3 jobs in 6 months. And, last year I bought a house and I got married, paid in cash. And I'm doing okay. I like
sounds like it.
Yeah. And I owe all of that to it. And I think there's just that promise there. And I don't think it's the right solution for everyone, but if it's the right solution for you, it can change your life. And for me, I owe everything that I have to a couple of decisions and a couple of things that I leaned into, and Facebook ads is one of them.
Those are great components to an answer. One of the things I liked that you said in there was finding that upside when you're uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. How do you see that playing out, not just in your personal life, but in the business side of what you do?
Yeah, I think there's two angles, really three, that people take. One is they want to be the person out in the wilderness chopping down trees, making the path for everybody else. And the honest truth is they're going to be the first one that discovers gold, but they're also probably going to be the first one that dies of malaria. So I'm not that person, flying too close to the sun. And, there's a bunch of Greek tragedy about that, and we don't need to get into that. Then there's the other side of people that will only play it safe. They're going to work inside of their thing. And an analogy I could make is somebody that peaked in high school and is king of their hometown, and they live a very happy life and they're very fulfilled, and just nothing wrong with that. Just that's the path they chose. But for me, that was very uncomfortable because that wasn't a place I wanted to be completely honest. I didn't want to stay there. Like when I wanted to be in LA my whole life. I grew up listening to folk rock, and I wanted to live in Laurel Canyon since I was like 6 years old. And I lived in Virginia, and then I moved to Florida for college. And then I got stuck as this radio guy. I got stuck being an international radio personality for like a decade. Like, it's not a bad thing, but like I couldn't leave. And so I think that middle ground there is the people that are willing to stand on the shoulders of others and innovate based on it. Like, I don't want to be the first person, but I'll be what I like to call the permission giver. You set out a path. If I can see that it will work, and I've got a level of confidence that I can do 2 or 3 of these, and one of them is going to pay off, I'll go do all of that and then let everybody follow behind me. So, like Leif Erikson might have found America, but Christopher Columbus gets the credit, and it's named after Amerigo Vespucci. Somebody had to be the person that got there. But the settlement in America, there was a settlement that was colonized by Europeans and then completely fell apart. And then we have Jamestown and all that other stuff that came afterwards. But there was a group of people that basically proved this would work. They all died. I want to be the leader of that second group. And for me, that's what has made the most sense. And when I've defined that is what works, if I can see 3 steps ahead of other people and I'm willing to make those risks, then I'm willing to lean in. And for what it's worth, I've had tremendous failures, and it has also been the definition of how I've gotten a lot of my success.
Yeah. So you won't be the first person to help colonize Mars, huh?
No, but I'll go on like the 3rd trip, sure. And so that's just the thing,
Yeah, I always joke with my wife Tess that's something I would have loved to do, is be an early Mars colonist. But yeah, never the first one. I'd much rather be a fast follower, right? Than the initial pioneer.
You're like, I'll be an early adopter, but I want version 1.01. Like, yes. I don't want version 1. I don't want the beta. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's got to go out there and do it. And what I can say too is when somebody goes out there and does it, they're generally not the first. So there's, for lack of a better word, but to use this analogy that we're doing, there might be abandoned paths and dead bodies around the way, but from all of that failure, you can see the patterns that have delivered people down the path of lack of success, to define the opportunities that work best for your strengths. And Facebook ads really worked well for me in business because I'm really good at pattern recognition. I'm really good at just numbers. To be honest, like, I got an MBA. I've been in Mensa since I was like 7. I can do certain things really well, and if I can lean into leveraging those, then I'm going to be really successful. And I understood where I was good and where I was bad, and I was willing to be completely honest about where I was the 3rd best person in the room, where somewhere else I was the best. And if you leave me only to do the best, everybody's going to get better. And as a leader, I've surrounded myself with people that are better than me at everything other than the thing that I'm the absolute best person in the room. And I can't tell you how much that has changed my life. And I think that takes courage. I think it takes learned humility from just failure constantly. And I think it takes, experience. And for what it's worth, being a touring musician, I think taught me that, just going out and being terrible on stage night after night, year after year, until you figure it out. That rejection and that fear got beaten out of me. You get booed off of 1,000 stages. You're going to get like, okay, fine, whatever. Like you begin to become immune to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind if we jump into a few, starting to get into technical stuff about how people can learn to use Facebook advertisements better?
I would love to. I mean,
Okay, let's
I'm
do it
also a bit
then.
of a nerd. Let's make it happen. Like anything we can do to help some people make some money, feel better about themselves today. Let's make it happen. Let's go print some cash.
So we do have an initial comment that I'm going to get to in a moment from LinkedIn. But when I was looking around on your profiles and ahead of time, there's one word, technical word in there that seems to stand out across all your bios, and that's the word broad. Can you tell me what you mean by broad?
So broad, the technical definition of broad by the Facebook engineering team is age, gender, and location. What we're talking about is targeting. So in a very simple way, the Facebook algorithm, the way that the auction functions, the engineers that built the auction basically said anything outside of age, gender, and location is a customization that you pay a premium for. Now, back in the day when I first started using Facebook, they would literally tell you this was 5 cents CPM, this is 17 cents tax. Like they would literally mark it out so you could ticker you down. They since removed that, but every time you throw in an interest group or a behavior or some sort of custom audience, what you're doing is you are adding cost because you're customizing. Anything you customize costs extra, right? You want guac, that's an extra buck. Of course, it's the same thing. So broad, by definition, is everybody, restricted only by age, gender, and location. And I preach that as much as possible because it's what leans in most to the unit economics and the way the auction is designed. And I think that a lot of people were taught poorly by folks that weren't Facebook first. And that's why it's such a disruptive concept. And I mean, I've been leaning into it forever. I got kicked out of Facebook groups, banned by gurus and experts all over the world. And now, you know, in the last year or two, I'm seeing more stuff. And now every single day, somebody's like, I'm going broad on my Facebook account. I'm like, fantastic. Like I'm a couple 100 million ahead of you. I promise you this is the way to go.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I don't know. We actually didn't talk about this before the show, but my background is machine learning engineering. And so when I first started with the Facebook advertising and I see all these options, I'm like, this is a heyday, right? Like, let's start doing what I might do on Google or any of these other platforms when I'm trying to advertise and give the algorithm as much information that I know in order to help it out, right? But the way you've described it, you're paying a premium for stuff that the algorithm is good enough to be able to figure out on its own, right?
Yeah. I mean, put very simply, oh, sorry about that. Somebody's calling me. Stop it. Okay. Put very simply, my assistant is calling me right now. He's like, doesn't know my calendar. Come on, bro. Anyway, fun stuff. To put it very simply, your ad, any ad, every ad is a post ID. Every post is its own individual web page. Facebook measures that web page's efficacy on click-through rate, bounce rate, time on site, stickiness, just like anything else. The Facebook feed is just like a search result from Google. They're trying to show you the things that you want to see. The difference between Google and Facebook and what makes them fundamentally different is Facebook's business objective is to retain attention for as long as possible. The average person swipes the height of the Eiffel Tower on a daily basis, which is mind-boggling. But that's the stat. And so your job is to get their attention and keep it, to keep them on the page, because Facebook's platform is basically a search result of things that people want to see. Google, on the other hand, their business objective is to get you on and off Google as fast as possible. You want to be the first result. That's the best thing. You're into Google, you type 5 things, boom, there's the ad, you click it, you're done. Half a second on Google is twice as long as they want you to be there. So the point is, Google is what we call an inventory and a demand-based platform, like email or something, where basically you're trying to execute things for as most efficient as possible, whereas Facebook isn't. So the ad, that post ID, Facebook figures out, well, who wants to see this? Based on that, Facebook discovers, okay, great. People like to see this. Some people respond positively, they respond negatively. So what is their business model? Attention for profit, eyeballs for money. So they show that to more people that want to see it. When you start to pay extra to restrict where that ad can go, basically what you're doing is you're paying a tax to prevent Facebook from showing that ad to the best people that want to see it. So you're paying extra to reach fewer good people. And so if you think of it like this, every ad over its life cycle creates a lookalike audience in its own right. So when you allow it to go broad, just age, gender, and location, you're basically saying, I'm letting you show it to anybody you want. And I'm going to let you determine their level of intent based on my site or somebody else's. Like when I was running New Balance, if somebody abandoned cart on Nike 5 minutes ago, show them my New Balance ad. Great. But if they're not in my interest group or some lookalike or something else, I'm never going to see that person. So the best possible impression is one that I'm paying extra to not get. In my math that I like to do, it seems really bad business to pay extra to do worse. And with machine learning, it's just a matter of the most amount of data in the fewest places builds the strongest machine. So with all of that, that's why a simple ad account, targeting broad, focusing on the customer and the ad, and your business model is the absolute best way to be successful. Sorry, something just fell off the wall. We're good.
These are earthquake good results. That's what's happening, right?
Yeah, I don't know what just fell, but oh well. We're good.
Yeah, it looked like
We're
it was something behind you.
here. Yeah, oh well.
Well, I can tell you, I saw that play out really well in my Facebook ad account for the ballet company, because before I was following your content, I tried to limit it to certain people who liked specific pages that were big in the space, and I was adding all kinds of targeting. And while I did see my average cost per some sort of optimized result go up, my thought process was, it's okay if that goes up if I'm getting higher quality leads, right? Because I'm targeting really well. I'm not wasting my money on people who won't care about this. But when I looked at the overall results, not just at the Facebook results, I didn't see much of a bump at all from when I wasn't doing Facebook advertising. And in my more recent campaigns, I've been going broad, and I've been focusing my efforts on making really clear creative, and I'm seeing my cost per action, or whatever we're optimizing for, go down, and more people showing up for our shows. So
that's what it's about, right? Let the machine that knows far more than you, based off of dozens of trillions, hundreds of many's of trillions of data points, do the work for you.
Yeah, that's what it seems to work.
Yeah.
and you're talking about...
For what it's worth, Facebook calls this an OCPM, an optimized CPM environment. This was invented with the conversion campaign. I remember before Facebook Pixel, where you ran Facebook like Google. And for what it's worth, those interest groups and those behaviors are legacy technology from when Facebook was competing with Google back when it was the ugly stepchild. And they basically haven't been able to get people to stop using it, even though it doesn't work, because it does help people in the moment. It's penny smart, pound foolish.
And so you're talking about this working at a very large scale on some of your accounts. And I can tell you, we do not spend that kind of budget on our ballet company, but it works at this scale too. The only thing that I've seen that that I've been really curious about, and you actually made a few posts about it in the last day or two, is a conversation around learning rate. When our budget's pretty small, it seems like it takes forever for our ads to get out of like that learning phase, right? So I haven't dove into your most recent content on that. So would you mind talking a little bit about what you've been presenting about the learning phase lately?
Sure. So the learning phase on Facebook, technically speaking, is effectively their designation on whether or not they have statistical significance to deliver a result within one standard deviation to the left or right of the mean. Now that is super, galaxy brain mathematics and calculus and stuff. But let me break it down very simply. If your ad is still in the learning phase, what it means is Facebook does not feel confident in delivering you a consistent result. And what we need more than anything, the number one most important thing, is a consistent result. Because Facebook, like everything, is a scientific method test. Without a constant, you can't test a variable. So if you don't have a consistent result that you can project the outcome of, you can't possibly begin to measure the value of any test you run. And if you don't have that set up, you're going to spend years chasing your tail, wasting money, working really, really hard, basically swimming in circles, while the other people in your business and in your industry that are prioritizing this leave you in the dust behind them. And I've seen it happen year after year after year. And yeah, I posted a poll today on LinkedIn because somebody on Twitter was like, well, how old were you when you realized this was BS? And I was like, bro, I get that you feel like you're doing a good job, but it's because you run a Facebook agency and you're never exposed to the actual unit economics of your client's business. And there's a reason why half of your clients sign up to learn from me and leave you. And it's very much because I'm building businesses, not trying to make Facebook look good. Because those are two completely different skill sets.
Yeah. So I had mentioned earlier that we did get a live comment come in on LinkedIn, and I haven't personally experienced this, and I'm curious if you have. We have Michael who has said, how can you resolve bogus ad rejections? I wonder if maybe even we take out the word bogus, because who's to say what's bogus and what's not in an ad, right?
Yeah. So I would solve this in 3 ways. Number one is get yourself approved for the highest level of ads that you can. Currently speaking, in the Facebook's ecosystem, getting yourself approved to run political ads is the highest grade of clearance that you can get. And basically what that means is when the system fires like, this is suspicious, it also looks at, well, what is your grade of clearance, right? It's like, are you top secret, like double secret probation, whatever? If you're just entry level, nobody, any red flag is just kicked off. If you are top double secret, then it is far more difficult. You'll get much more of a runway with your ads. And when you appeal them, you're far more likely to get those ads reapproved much quicker. And so that's something that I highly, highly stress is get as big clearance. Now on Facebook, you can go to their system, you can do it. You can file a link, just like, how do I get approved to run political ads on Facebook? Type that into Google, go through the process. Yes, you're gonna have to take like a picture of your ID. You have to prove that you're a real person. Like there's a bit of a process and some people don't feel comfortable with it, but the idea of you having any individual freedom or privacy on the internet is completely nonsense. Like, yeah. Also, you're a hash number, so nobody cares. So nobody's that important, right? So, very few. There's definitely whatever. My point is, right. So get approved for that. Second, it might not be the ad that is getting that ad rejected. Make sure that your website is compliant. And it's not just the page that you're running ads to. Facebook measures compliance off of anywhere somebody can get after 3 clicks, so that first click being on the ad. So if I go to your page and then I can hit home and then I can hit some other thing and then some word comes up buried on some other section, buried in some blog that I can see somewhere else, that's going to make that ad be rejected because you're sending somebody into an ecosystem that Facebook doesn't approve. We all can understand how you could have like a front to some illegal business or whatever else you want to do. Facebook's way of getting around that is basically saying, okay, well, what happens 2-3 steps down the road? Because otherwise you could just have a whole bunch of people selling bananas and then all of a sudden it's like Silk Road, nefarious, whatever, because they clicked on one button. Facebook's a way of avoiding personal liability and legal issue with that is just to basically say no. And so I would highly recommend going through that and making sure that your entire site is compliant or that somebody can't get there after clicking on the Facebook ad. which is also something you could say. If somebody comes to my site with a FBCLID, which basically means that the routing software through your server says that somebody came from a click on a Facebook ad, then don't make some of these things hidden. You can get way down the rabbit hole with stuff like that too if you want to. And then the last thing that I would recommend is you can appeal any rejection that you have. So you can go in, you can hit that little request review. And in my experience, being short-winded, direct, and honest about those things is great. And I always ask, if I did something wrong, let me know. Otherwise, I think this is completely compliant. Let me know where I did wrong and I'll fix it. In general, when you fire that inside of Facebook, it goes back to another machine that double checks the work. If it does come back as like, oh no, there's something here, somebody will manage that. And so if you're constantly doing it, if you're putting up a whole bunch of tickets into somebody's queue in their workflow for customer service, what happens is the manager of that customer service person is like, what is going on here? Remember, it's an office, right? So the customer service department manager is going to see what's going on. And if you're approved for super high level and your site is compliant, you're coming in there with legit stuff, that manager is going to read this long list of tickets from you and will then take seniority over the situation. And that's basically just like, can I speak to the manager? That's the way of doing it on Facebook. And so that's the way I do things. And if I have more trouble off of that, I literally go into the help section and I will ping every single thing and just flood customer service with tickets, because eventually somebody's job is to clear those tickets. And if I am a squeaky wheel, I'm going to get the oil. And I've absolutely paid somebody like $50 to like just every single day fire 20 of these things until it works. And I mean, hey, Upwork made me some, got me approved on a couple of things like that way back in the day. But I mean, that's how I would go about it. But generally speaking, 80-90% of the time an ad gets rejected, it's not necessarily because of something in the ad, but because of something about you or because of something in your site that is either not approved for a certain level or some non-compliance that has nothing to do with the actual ad and the audience and the offer. So I would really look at that. And I can't tell you how many times it was because of, a blog or a comment section in a review of a product that just said a whole bunch of trigger words and was approved. And now the entire thing got flagged. Like, I can't tell you how many times it was just like somebody just dropped in a whole bunch of buzzwords in the comment section. Nobody cleared it out. And then it showed up on 8 product pages. And then the whole account got shut down. And to be honest, Facebook's like, I don't want our customers to experience that. And if you can't clean it up, then we'll just send the traffic elsewhere because we don't need you. And your number one objective is to be a good business partner to Facebook.
That's all great insight. And thank you, Michael, for the question. One of the things that you said in there too, that was sort of a revelation to me when I was starting to change the way I did Facebook advertising based on your content, was this idea of accumulating effects in your account. So you had mentioned in that last question there that a good way to build up your own reputation with Facebook to, avoid getting things flagged is to have a bunch of history behind you. And from your content, it seems like a really good way to help Facebook understand your audience and to perform better on subsequent ads is to keep feeding it good information every single time that you run a new campaign. So what other sort of cumulative effects are there in an account for someone who's thinking not just about results today, but results months from now?
Great question. I love it. And what we're really talking about is effectively the same thing as compounding interest, right? Save $20 a day, $20 a week, starting at the age of 5, and you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 60, like stuff like that, right? Or whatever the math is. I don't remember the math, but it's something, there's something dumb about like $20 a week and you're a millionaire. I forgot what it is, but it's out there. But the point of compounding interest here, there's a couple of things we can really keep in mind. Number one is the quality of data for our target events. Now that is about efficiency, but one of the easiest ways of doing that, a lot of people make the mistake when optimizing their Facebook account to try to say, well, this is my best ad. I'm going to spend as much money as possible against it. And to take that into the real world, you're saying, I've got a factory with 5 employees. We're making 100 widgets a day. This person can make 20 really well. I'm just going to make them make 100. And when the quality of their work goes down the toilet, you're going to be like, well, clearly the factory's against me. No, you abused your best employee. If you want to get better on any cost averaging anywhere, you remove the worst choice, right? A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. If you make the one strong link do all of the work, it's going to snap. If you get rid of just the worst thing, you can probably do twice as much work and you'll still be okay. So insofar as optimization is concerned in daily management, I look for the weakest, I look for the largest liabilities. And I remove them from where I'm allowing investment on my assets. Facebook is investment banking. There's no difference. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say is there's a cumulative effect to people's interaction with your ads. And we call this estimated action rate. If people are more likely to spend more time on your ads, then you are more likely to be seen as a positive business partner to Facebook's business objectives of eyeballs for profit, right?
Yep.
I think I said attention for profit, eyeballs for money. So if you can feed into that, where, hey, look, somebody spends 5 seconds on your content and your competitor, they only spend 4. Well, when an impression comes up, Facebook's more likely to show your thing that keeps somebody on for 5 seconds than somebody else's that keeps them on for 4. Now, that's just a little edge, but the cumulative effect of that over millions of impressions, because legitimately we're talking about a lot, over a long period of time. Now you can do it at thousands of impressions or millions or trillions, whatever your budget is over time. But the point is, Facebook's going to try to show your content to people if it thinks that people enjoy your content more. And the net effect of this is you pay lower costs on inventory. Basically, you're a better business partner, so Facebook gives you preferential treatment in the auction. Or you can think of it as this. If you're a bad business partner, Facebook says, fine, you want to play? Great, you're a liability. We're just going to make you pay 50% more. And so if you're sitting at CPMs at $30, $40, $60, $100, understand it. One of the biggest reasons that you're not seeing $15 CPMs or $20 is because the quality of the user experience when seeing your content is worse than your competitors. Paramount to the bottom line. And then the last thing that I will say here is Facebook also keeps into account, they've really been prioritizing this over the last couple of years. They really take into account the customer experience after the fact. So if your customer service is bad, there's a thing called page score. It's basically their advertiser score. Part of that is how likely people are to engage with your stuff, but also it is if when people see your ads, they're always saying, this is a scam, this is bogus, it's called Xing out. They want to get rid of that ad in their feed constantly. Facebook is going to rate your business as undesirable in their ecosystem. And basically, you're getting flagged as you are a liability. Us showing your ad to somebody means somebody might have a negative experience on our platform. Their response to that is to just charge you more money. So you are going to have to pay a higher and higher premium to be a larger and larger liability. And that's Facebook's way of basically letting Darwinism edge out everybody that doesn't care about the customer. And so those are the big compounding effects that I think are so wildly ignored. I can't tell you how impactful it is to get your customer service right. I had a client that took their customer service from an automated overseas machine to a call center in Las Vegas. Now it went from $5,000 a month to $20,000 a month. It was a big investment. And they were doing about $20 million a year, just for some perspective. Within 30 days of us doing this, our ad cost dropped by 30%. It was literally 1% per day. It was obnoxious. The end result was we went from $8,000 a day in spend to $20,000 a day in spend.
Wow.
Because our customers had a better interaction with the brand. And what also happens when we have positive interaction, the comment section of those ads are like, Hey, I didn't like this thing, but they were super nice to me, blah, 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 blah. So now there's more positive sentiment and there's a snowball effect. So people are more likely to engage with you if they like you or if they hate you. And if they don't care, there's nothing. But you never tell anybody about the ho-hum sandwich you had. You tell them it was the worst thing you'd ever had in your life, or this is the greatest thing you ever had in your life. And if you are on the worst side, it is going to get bad and is going to happen quickly and is going to get bad geometrically for your business. The exact opposite also occurs, which is why a lot of my clients and a lot of my students are seeing CPMs like when it gets bad, their CPMs are like $15, $18. And they're like, oh, and they're doing like jewelry, hair care, beauty products, like stuff that should be like highly contested inventory. But for them, a bad day is a $20 CPM. They're like, oh my God, I doubled my cost.
What's happening?
Yeah, like what is happening? I'm only twice as good as everybody else in my ecosystem. And that is because they're prioritizing this estimated action rate. And a lot of what I teach students of mine, like in my MBA program, is how to test for that, and how to really use the tools and devices, because that's what we designed with Facebook back in 2018. If you ever look at the Power 5, I was part of the group that put best practices for that. And how do you really scientifically understand how to be the best partner? And then out of those best partner initiatives, which one not only makes you a good partner for user experience, but also does well in unit economics for your business. And when you crack that nut, sky's the limit.
Awesome. That is such good stuff. I love those accumulating effects. And like you said, it takes some time to build up. But every single time that I'm doing a new campaign on my account, I'm seeing that stuff slowly accumulate with my cost per that action thing going down consistently, but I'm still reaching more people with less money. It's a really good feeling. You know, you're going in the right direction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, if you can reach more people for less money, if you prioritize efficiency over scale, you'll get more results. I will say this is like, it's just a mic drop moment. It is far easier to reduce your cost of customer acquisition by 10% than it is to maintain the same cost at 10% higher spend. And when you spend less money, when you maintain your investment, but you get more out of it, it's actually better for your unit economics as your business. Downstream, like less money out is always good for your business. So cash flow, inventory management, it's always better for your business, not only in the unit economics of Facebook, but for everything else. If you are able to get more for your dollar than trying to maintain that same price at an expansion. And if you want to sell 11 things, it's way easier to get the thing that costs you get 10 for, to get it, make that dollar get you 11, way easier. And that'll move mountains when you're like, every month, I just want to get 2% better, 1% a day. The concept of Kaizen 100% takes into account here. And I have, in my experience, taken cost of acquisition, for instance, for like a SaaS company. When I started, it was $5,000 a day and about a $60 acquisition. Within 9 months, we were spending $30,000 a day at a $12 cost per acquisition. Ooh. And what we ended up doing, about $30,000, what we ended up doing was scaling that to 40, scaling that to 50. And we were like, well, this is great, but our EBITDA doesn't look good. So let's make an extra $1 million a month. So we just cut spend by $30,000 a day. I made the business $12 million and basically a decision. And we were still at higher volume with higher quality customers than the day one when we started.
That's awesome.
That is an 8-figure decision. And it was a really easy one to make because it meant that I had to do even less work, which I'm all about. Because inherently, I think inherently engineers are really smart because they just try to be as lazy as possible. And if that is your mentality, like if your solution is how do I make some Rube Goldberg device, just flip a pancake, and you have 42 steps, when it breaks, you're screwed. But if it's 2 steps, you know exactly what happened. And you can fix it and you can make it better. So I always tell people solving problems with complexity is easy. Solving problems with simplicity is actually what will move the needle for you. And if you want to build to scale, you have to prioritize elegant solutions instead of hard work. If you want to 10x your business, you cannot do it by working 10 times harder, because there's not 700 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And the honest truth is, if you could work that much harder, you're just going to make the machine dumber.
And you're going to hate it the whole way through.
Oh, yeah. And I've been that guy. Like back in 2016, 2017, 2018, before we really got into all this stuff. I used to be the interest group, ad set, budget optimization, that guy. And I knew that, like, if I got a Trenti iced coffee with no ice cubes in it, just straight, just active ingredient, I could sit down there and by force of will, I could produce $1,000 extra an hour. $2,000. I could manually produce 15, 20 grand extra in revenue. But as soon as I took a day off, everything would die. So I wasn't allowed to ever take a vacation. And that's dumb. If you build a business that needs you, you've failed.
Yep. Yeah. Now, we're running pretty low on time here. So I wanted to mention a couple of things real quick. You mentioned that you have an MBA program. Mm-hmm. So it'd be great if we could either on social here drop in a link to that right after we wrap this up. And then I also saw that you have a workshop or seminar or something next week. Would you mind saying a sentence or two about that?
Sure. So the workshop you want to sign up, it's apply.facebookdisruptor.com. You can sign up. And that one is really about prioritizing learning around 3 core principles of measurement, testing, and planning. What are your actual numbers? How to use the scientific method to move them? And then how do you plan the next 90 days, the 9 months, in a way that allows you to reduce your time in a facet of hours per week while maximizing your leaning into being a good partner to the platform. And it's really built on a lot of the core elements of my Facebook Ads MBA program and a lot of what I've done with training agencies and everything else. So it's a short bit. It should be a good hour and a half, 2 hours of diving into all of that. I'm really excited about it. I mean, it's like almost 200 slides. That's what's wild. But like, I was like, yeah, I mean, I was just like, hey, look. And some of them are like, hey, this is me, go here. Like, there's a little bit of fluff just to make it so it's not completely monotonous, but you gotta tell the story, right? Yeah. I'm a song and dance man. You got to make it interesting. So that's what that is. And yes, there's an opportunity off of that. I don't want to say that it is completely altruistic. I am trying to find people that are really good candidates for stuff. And I do want to help people outside of that. There are some giveaways inside of there to get some of the measurement documentation and other things. Like, if you can't, I don't ever want money to be the reason why people can't be successful. Because the honest truth is, you might not be in the right place to maximize an enterprise solution. That's fine. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of help. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of support. So I want to prioritize people's access to that information. Because also, to be completely fair, I've already seen in the last 45 days, multiple old business partners of mine basically launching courses on what I taught them. There's this agency in Canada, for instance, that just launched a ecosystem ROAS program. And it's like, I coined that term in 2018. I have an ebook on it, 3 courses on it. Like, I have over 100 hours on my YouTube channel from years ago explaining it in graphic detail. But sure. And look, at the end of the day, if it's a good idea, somebody else sells it, I can't possibly begin to say like patent infringement or something like that. Like, I want people to be successful. That's fine. But I also want to make sure that they understand the right things. Right. And so I want to be the person out in front of all of this, giving the best, most actionable information. So that is called the How to Master Facebook Ads webinar. And that's a little bit of a clickbaity thing. I'm an advertiser. Cut me some slack. I'm trying to make some stuff out of it. But to be completely honest, it is very much how do you begin to think in the right way so that you can begin to prioritize the right things. So you can ultimately leverage the highest quality assets you have to maximize your investment management for the planning of the scale and growth of your business. And I teach that Facebook ads first, but a lot of it is just business development stuff. And this is stuff that I've learned from people, like old bosses from Guthrie Ranker or Textile, when we were spending, $100 million a year in television. How do we track that? It had nothing to do with the pixel. But we were very successful, and you can use those same principles. So I try to break all of that stuff down, because there is something that the 8 and 9 and 10 figure businesses of the world, stuff that they internally have in common, that most 6 and 7 figure businesses that are stuck at 5 million never do. And so my focus is just like, why can't we do this? And so I'm trying to teach people that. So yeah, apply.facebookdisruptor.com. The class will be, I guess it's a webinar. I don't know. I feel like webinar is just a scam thing, but I'll throw it out there again, trying to hold myself accountable. If I was a better salesman, I'd make way more money. But I feel like the best sales tactic is an honest, good relationship with people, because this business is ultimately, any business is about relationships.
Yeah.
And I value my integrity and the relationships I have with people far, far more than making a quick buck. Because the short con means you have to work a lot harder than a positive relationship. And I'm just out of that game. And to be fair, a lot of the scammers in the Facebook community are moving on to TikTok, moving on to other things, because they can't make any more money, because all of their bad advice doesn't work anymore. And there's some new ground to be predator to. So, mazel tov to them to make some money. But I dread the folks that are going to listen to them and think that they have any idea what they're talking about. But that's okay. Not my place to speak ill of any of them. Again, relationships. I might be on a stage with these people, and I don't want to say that I was whatever. Which I'm trying to be better with. I'm trying to be better. The old radio guy in me just wants to say like things, light up the phones, and just like go after calls.
Oh yeah.
But I'm trying to be a better man. I'm trying to be a better man. I got married. I can be an adult.
That's awesome.
So the other side of what I'm doing, the Facebook Ads MBA program, is the global system that I use for teaching enterprise level solutions for managing paid media and business development. It's 12-week self-paced program. There's one-on-one time with me. There's group classes. There's 10 different courses, as well as over 30 hours of lecture, like a dozen ebooks, video walkthroughs of all the material, and a private community of other business owners from a million different things, from freelancers to entrepreneurs and agency owners. And that is my best option of what I used to do to train ad agencies to be good. Now, what I realized was I was training agencies to figure out a way of doing less work so that they could prioritize acquiring more and more customers. But it didn't ever mean that their customers got a better result. And so I just got kind of upset. Like, that wasn't my why. So my why is now basically just saying, look, the ad agency business model as we've seen it is effectively obsolete. So let me train people to, if you've been burned by 3, 5, 10 ad agencies, your internal media hours not good, all this stuff, let me just show you personally what it is. So you have access to this material in perpetuity, so you can learn it, documentation, system, process, theory, and an expanding thing. I'm always adding to it. And then also you can install that to the rest of your team. If you hire somebody, you can put them through all the coursework. You're just basically buying into what is the 90th percentile way of thinking and problem solving for not just Facebook ads, but business development. And for what it's worth, I do have an MBA from a school that taught me the Harvard Business Review, and I've done over $1 billion in revenue. So I've solved a few problems in my day.
Yeah.
And I'm also not a stranger. So like, I will answer any question you have whenever you have it. But generally in the alumni program, by the time you ask a question, 14 other people got to it before I even get the chance. And half the time I'm just like, yeah, I was right.
That's
Here's
right.
the link.
Yep.
Like, great. And also that program, people are generating new knowledge, which is great. I think that's what a graduate and postgraduate level, any course should really do. Any program should really do. And it's called the MBA program because it's not a course. This is a university. And I very much think of it as, Harvard Business School, or in a more tech sense, like Code Academy, you just get approved for everything and you walk out with a 6-figure income. This is that for digital marketing, and nobody else is doing it. So I'm gonna. Yeah,
that's awesome. Sounds amazing. Well,
I like it.
Well, I promised that I was going to try to, keep an eye on the clock, and here we are having a good time chatting about all kinds of fun stuff. So thank you for all of the extra time. Really appreciate it.
Well, if you want to do another one of these, I'm more than willing to do it up. I'm all about this stuff. This is what I want to do with my time, and I think I said I had a hard stop, and here I am going on soliloquy after soliloquy, which I said I was going to do, and we're right up against it. So, in an old radio way, like, oh, they're shutting me down. I can't even get to have the truth. We gotta go. And with that, I just want to say thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I hope I was helpful. And if you ever want to do this again, just reach out. I would love to. I really treasure these opportunities.
Awesome. Same here. Thanks so much, Charlie.
Yeah.
We're going to sign off live now.
Love it. All right. I got to go. I'll see you later. Thank you very much.
All right.